My name is Jamin Goecker. I'm a realtor in South Central Alaska, and my mission is to help you to build an intentional and significant legacy for yourself and your family by coaching you in real estate. And today, what I'm going to be talking about is how much staging is necessary when you are selling your home. You know, this is something where, it seems like everyone and the dog has made some kind of content talking about how you should stage your home, but realistically, how much do you need to stage your home and how much is necessary? Because obviously you can pay to have furniture brought in, you can have a professional designer come in, a stager, and really kind of bring the best out of everything in the property. And that's all fine and good, but it might not be necessary for all properties. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Before we get started though, do make sure you give this video a like and do subscribe so you can receive more information like this in the future to help you as you are looking at getting your property on the market. Now, without further ado, let's go and jump into our video. Now, the first thing we need to consider is what is the appeal of your property? Is it the location? Is it the views? Is it that it's really close to some kind of convenient amenity, or is it just the house by itself and how good the finishes are and how updated it is? If it is the latter, staging is going to be pretty important. But if it's something more like the view or location or any of those other things, staging might not be as important. Now, I'm not going to say don't do any staging. We have a baseline amount of staging that you need to do on every property regardless that I'm going to be talking about later. I'm talking about like going the extra mile though. Might not be necessary if it's one of those things. So that's first thing to consider. Now, the second thing to consider is at the higher price points, really you start getting to like that 500 and up is really where it starts. You start getting to those higher price points and then some element of extra staging becomes a little bit more relevant. But that being said though, it's usually more a demand of the sellers for having the staging and less so the buyers, because the buyers can go in there and they're usually very, very educated folks that are going to be buying at that price range. It's usually not their first house and they can kind of look around and get a good sense for the property without you having to necessarily spoon feed it to them with the staging for how it could look. But if you've got really wide open space, you've got a really good wide open concept, that's awesome. And let's say your stuff's not in there. At that point, I might say, depending on just how big the property is, it might make sense to put some kind of staged furniture in there, just so you kind of get some definition for where space is at in the property. So that's definitely a case where I would start saying, hey, we might want to stage this up a little bit and put our best foot forward that way. There's some other lighter staging that we can do, like obviously flowers in the vase, having the fruit bowl sitting there with lemons or something like that. So there's simple things you can do. We're not really talking about breaking the bank here. These are just really simple things to do. Once we start getting into the area more of like a million or multi-million-dollar property, then we really start looking at how necessary some of the more extreme staging techniques would be. But keep it simple. That's going to be one of our biggest principles here. Just keep it simple. Usually we on the selling listing side overthink the staging way more than the buyer does. So that's just something to keep in mind. Let's take a break here real quick. For those of you who have been watching my channel for a bit, you do know that I have regular market updates for what's going on in every big market center here in the South Central Alaska area. So if you are considering getting your property on the market, that needs to be the very next thing you go check out and seeing what's going on in your immediate market. We have a new update for every market that comes out every month. So do make sure that you go check that out. And also, if you're considering getting your property on the market, I do have a seller guide to kind of walk you through in detail about what it looks like to get your property on the market and what you can expect. So if that would help you, certainly feel free to reach out to me. Link to my website is down below. In the comment section, just say seller guide and I'll know what it is I need to send to you. Now let's go and finish today's video. Now the baseline for what it is that we're looking at to get for staging for every home is number one, keep it clean. Now everyone's level of cleanliness is different, but as a rule of thumb, I should be able to go in there and see completely clear countertops, okay? Nobody wants to see your mail scattered all over the place, or nobody wants to go in there and see, a bunch of dishes laying all over the place. Avoid that, okay? Imagine you have got your in-laws coming over for the first time. That is the level of cleanliness and analysis I want you to put into this. Number 2 is we want to make sure pictures and stuff like that is taken off the wall, and you want to declutter as much as you possibly can. Have you seen hotel rooms? Have you noticed how pared down they are and how simple they are? That's because, a couple of reasons. The first one being they don't want to pay for stuff they don't need to, but number 2 is that they know most people are going to feel more likely to warm up to a room very quickly if it doesn't have a whole lot of personalized stuff all over the room. So for that reason, take pictures off the walls, take as much of the basic stuff that you've used to kind of define that house as yours and just put it away, because you're going to be moving anyway. For some people, this is a really difficult step because this is something you've really put a lot of energy into to really make it yours. And you need to start depersonalizing it and detaching from it. And that's really difficult for some people, but it is necessary if we're serious about putting our best foot forward. The next thing is making sure that everything that you do for the property makes sense, okay? So you can't look at staging as just one room and ignore the rest of the house, okay? You need to make sure everything matches and everything kind of flows together. You're looking for matching colors. You're looking for, making sure that every room kind of has a good flow going to it. You can have one room that's like super easy to pass through and has that open feel, and everywhere else in the house is just super boxed in. Okay, let's try to avoid that if you possibly can, just with some simple staging. So yes, keep it neutral. Take stuff off the walls, depersonalize, declutter, and clean and spit polish that place to make sure everything shines. So these have been my tips for staging and how much staging that you need to do. Ultimately, I'm not going to know exactly for sure how much staging we need to do until I have a chance to actually sit down with you in a consultation and figure that out. But usually, I know a lot of people I've talked to have really put a lot of pressure on themselves as far as staging, and usually a lot of money in that area can be better spent focusing on marketing or on very, very small upgrades on the house, like painting the walls kind of a neutral color. That would be a good use of money that a lot of people would usually plan to spend on staging. So I sure hope this is useful for you. If it has, like I said, do make sure you give this video a like. If you'd like to reach out to me, if you do have any questions, feel free to do so on my website, on Facebook, or on Instagram as well, and be happy to hear from you and help as best I can.